Yep. All right. I will.
Well, thanks, Abby.
Yep. You're welcome, Lynn. All right. So Kelly has started recording. So I think that means, Sandy, you're on.
I'm on. Okay.
Unless you
Welcome,
want me
everyone.
to do housekeeping.
Oh, to the CAG meeting. There's the housekeeping chart for those of you who can see it. So raise your hand if you have a question or want to speak. I think Kelly's going to do. Oh, but wait, there's more. And we'll do the agenda. Kelly's going to do the roll call slowly because I think we're still waiting for people to maybe get here. I don't know. So is Kelly here?
Yep.
Somewhere?
Yeah.
All right.
First and foremost, I want to welcome Gail, and I hope I don't butcher your last name, Manswitch.
Yep, that's right.
She's a new member this month. She lives in the Grand Rapids area and not far from Hoff Industries. MPART site. So Gail, I'll mark you as here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brad?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks.
Andy?
Yes, I'm here.
Tyler?
I don't see him yet.
Ken Harvey? Lynn McIntosh?
I'm here by phone.
Elizabeth?
I don't think so.
She was on our engaging the public, so maybe she'll be here shortly. Dave Wynn?
Yep, I'm here.
Margaret? And Mary said she wasn't going to be able to join tonight. Christina Schroeder.
Yes, I'm here.
Tony.
I'm here.
Rick.
Here.
Shelley. Dan Brown.
Dan is here, and so is my son.
Aww.
It's a twofer.
Joe. Joe out there?
I don't see him. Maybe he'll show up here in a minute.
Bill Creel.
I'm here.
Teresa.
Here.
Connie.
Connie is here. Maybe she's not unmuting.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Bill Barnett.
I'm here. I had problems with my mic at the last meeting. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me.
We can.
You poor people.
Gail Dugan. Pam McQueer. Laura Ogar. Charlie.
Here.
Leah. Patty Baldwin. Bob Pataki. Rick Burns.
I see.
Here.
Okay, I was gonna say, I see him.
Daniel Burlingame. Matt
Rar. I don't think I see him.
Jeremy. Stacy Taylor. Jeffrey Dutton. David Norwood. And Justin. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Kelly, for doing that. Maybe people are driving home or something, so hopefully we'll get a few more jumping on here. All right, so we have somewhat of a busy agenda, and let's just dive in with subcommittee reports. I think the first one on the list was the Engaging the Public Subcommittee. And Rick, I think you took that one over. So
yeah, Ken Harvey decided to Ken Harvey had some personal reasons to he still wants to continue, but his ability to attend the meetings is not what it used to be. So we had a assignment that we worked on, and everybody had a chance that was passed out to everybody. Do you want to go over that now, or do you want to go over that later in the meeting?
I think we had it later in the meeting, but
Okay.
so maybe
Yeah, I
we
was
could,
trying to figure that out, but we had an assignment where we received a number of scenarios from MPART, and they were related to PFAS contamination, and then we had to come up with what we thought was the best way to inform the public with those scenarios. And some of them were relatively straightforward. Other ones, there was no data, and it was I think a good sampling of the types of scenarios that come up, because sometimes you have data and sometimes you don't. So we spent several hours working on it, and we look forward to sharing that with everybody later this evening.
all right, so that's like a tease like they do in reality TV. Stay tuned to the end of the show. You'll get to see it. Now, I was on part of that call. You guys, it was hard work to do. So, okay, thank you, Rick. The website review subcommittee.
Yes, Andy, this is Bill Creel. We met today, and our assignment from last time was to take a look at PFAS 101. And we looked at the introduction video, and I should just note that the committee was Rick Radisky and Brad Venman and I. We thought the video was good. It was about the right length, had about the right information on it. We also took a look at the PFAS 101 information. General comment, we thought the webinar video was hard to find. Recommended some changes to make it easier to find. On the frequently asked questions, they had some good info. We had some technical comments on the first question, dealing with adding in water solubility, that the PFAS can move with groundwater flow. PFAS compounds circulate in our blood and are bound to molecules that carry antibodies and hormones. And then the last sentence about animal studies, add in that although they're good and can help understand what happened in people, they're not directly comparable to human because our kidneys retain certain PFAS compounds. We also suggested adding a question to the FAQs, and that is why or how was PFAS put in use before its toxicity was known? And I think this is an important question that a lot of us have when we first become introduced in this. So why don't we test this before we use it? And I think it's a chance to explain to the general public how the laws are set up to be reactive rather than proactive and prevent this. So those are our comments. For the next meeting, we're going to take a look at another part, the firefighting foam part of the website. That's it.
Excellent. Not going here.
I think we're gonna have to meet Connie again.
All right, did that work there? Okay. Just one question I have, Bill, really quick. How are you giving those recommendations to MPART or to someone to look at that?
Sure. Well, Kelly's on the meetings with us and we send them into her, in hard copy. We send both a question and track changes for into Kelly. So she's our conduit to MPART.
Perfect. Okay, does anybody have questions for Bill or the committee on those issues? If you do, raise your hand.
Oh, Sandy, I have a quick question. This is Connie. I think, isn't the FDA responsible for responding to the question of PFAS being in food? I would think that the Food and Drug Administration would be, that's a federal agency though. So I don't know, Bill, do you know?
Well, they have certain responsibilities. I think there's a lot that can be put under this question. Part of it comes if the industry does some testing and it's not public, then FDA doesn't know about it. But I think there's a lot that can be said to clear up where the state authorities are, where the federal authorities are, and how it plays together to facilitate some gaps and let this type of contamination occur. Also gives a chance to talk about it historically because PFAS comes from, 50, 60 years ago, all the way up to present. So it's a chance to talk about the changes that have been made and the gaps that still exist.
So I think that's all good stuff. Did that help, Connie?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions for the website review committee? You guys are doing great work. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Prevention subcommittee.
Okay, can you move this? There you go. What we wanted to do is the committee talked a little bit when we wanted to put together maybe a slide so that the group could take a look and understand where we are currently at this point. What we've done first is we've generated what we call a mission statement. And that mission statement is to reduce and eliminate human exposure to PFAS compounds in manufacturing processes and in everyday products through legislation and community awareness of PFAS containing products. And we kind of dubbed it as turning off the tap. The first thing we did is we sat down and brainstormed ways to achieve our goal, providing resources and information to educate local communities and state legislators on products in the marketplace today and contain PFAS, as well as products that are PFAS free. From that, what we did was we contacted various organizations and individuals knowledgeable about PFAS containing products and requested them to provide information and documentation to support our mission. And I want to thank Mike Jury for supplying us a lot of that information along with various different groups within the state and also within the country as well. So we have quite a bit of information, but we're trying to decipher as to what we need to do with it. From there, we've researched proposed Michigan legislation relating to future banning of PFAS products marketed and sold. What we found is that there are bills currently out in the Senate and the House, but most of them are in the proposal phase at this point. And I think that the cause of that might be is that there is what we think was there possibly might the legislative branch of the people may not really understand what PFAS products are and what the products are. So we think that might be one of the issues. We've researched multiple venues and generate a list of specific brand names, products that contain PFAS, but specific brand name information is not readily available. What we found was that there are a lot of different websites out there that have sprinklings of brand names, but we think maybe due to product liability, there is no bullet that says here's all the products that contain PFAS. We did find a list of products that are PFAS free, but that's as far as we've been able to do. Our goal at this point is to provide a listing of specific websites and articles where anyone can go to educate themselves on what PFAS is and which PFAS containing products can cause potential health by using those products. And what we wanted to do, and Abby, this is kind of a suggestion, was we want to suggest maybe that MPART would provide a preventative measures tab on the website where we could put a lot of that information. So we wanted to get feedback from the COG and MPART as to where what we've done at this point, and if there are any ideas that we might need to look at going forward.
I think those are great ideas. I think we can definitely set up some time to talk through exactly what that would look like.
Okay. Because like I said, we have we've done a lot of research. The entire group has a listing of different websites, that has, a lot of information, but, it's as far as specific brand information, that's a little bit more skeptical as far as the information is out there. But we think that we could narrow it down to have a lot of the websites on the MPART website where we could highlight certain specific areas that people can look at and can basically, educate themselves and understand what's going on and what they need to look for going further forward.
Cool. Excellent.
Thank you. All right. Any questions on that or comments or thoughts?
Looks like Joe has a question.
Joe, what's your question?
I like your first bullet. That is the brainstorm ways to achieve our goal. And do you or do we have the goal somewhere? It's not zero, is it?
As far as our
PFAS goal, MPART or us, do we have a goal?
Our goal is basically what we're considering a goal would be considering our mission statement. I don't think we're ever going to get to a point to where we have a 0%. I don't think that would probably be an impractical goal in my view, but we definitely want to try to reduce it as much as possible. So the goal, I think, is what we're going to call our mission statement, I believe.
Okay, well, thanks.
Okay.
And Dave, just to add in here, I don't know if you talked at all about labeling in your group.
No, we haven't, Abby. We haven't done that yet, but that's a very good point.
Because a lot of this, knowledge, just having the knowledge out there is really important, but labeling is probably the first step in trying to understand what your personal risk is. If it's labeled, at least you can make that determination. But
That's good, very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, Gail,
Sandy,
you
I have
got
a-
your hand up. Oh, but someone else is talking. Go ahead, Lynn. Was
Go
that
ahead,
you?
why don't you, yeah, you can talk to Gail first, that's fine.
Okay, Gail, and then Lynn. And Gail, you're on mute. It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if you didn't start somebody on mute. There
I
you go.
forgot to demute myself, sorry. Wouldn't it be helpful to have that, to educate legislators and our representatives even in Washington for those labels to be put on? Otherwise, a company is not going to willingly do that. And is there any thought of how we educate lawmakers to put that into their legislation?
Well, again, one of the things that we've done is we think that a lot of that information, if we put a lot of that information on the websites that the legislators could go to, we would meet with some of the legislators or send them information that says, if you go to the MPART website and you click on this tab, you
Okay,
can
yeah.
look at a lot of that information for articles and different websites, and they can basically educate themselves on what they need to do.
Right, but they have to know that that information exists and where to find it. And that's where it'd be helpful for us to be able to contact them and do that. That's
Okay,
all.
very good point.
Thanks, Lynn, or thanks, Gail. Lynn,
Yeah, I just am more asking for clarification, and I will probably always be the one who stands up for hard copies of things, and wondering if, along with I guess this ties both things together, both subcommittees. Let's say that this group comes up with a list. It'd be great to have that list included in PFAS 101 type thing, right? Where they can get this information out there. And I don't know if there's any, maybe there is, as I'm asking, is there any brochure, paper copy, something that can be sent to people for those who, process information more easily, or will sit down to read it without getting, like our eyes glazed over. That's all.
Yeah, to answer your question, Lynn, there is some specific information out there, brand name. As I said earlier, there is a list that's available for items that are PFAS free, which can easily be sent forward. But as far as the products that have PFAS in them, there are bits and pieces of different articles and different in different emails and websites that will provide that information. But having a complete list, that is a pretty monumental task.
Yeah, no, and I can see that, and I'm not talking about immediately, but as you move ahead, to work with the people who are doing the web design with PFAS 101, right? Maybe include the list of products that are PFAS free in the PFAS 101 materials. That's all, because I know it's something I was really glad to learn about, and so this is great to see this all, crossing over throughout. That's all. And also, my other question was about, to Kelly or anybody, is there the ultimate goal of having anything in a hard copy form so that people could even go to their city hall? I know we have a place where there's brochures up, and actually sit down and read about it. Because I do think that can be effective, and I don't know if it exists. That's my question. That's all.
Abby's shaking her head no, like.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we've got any kind of printed brochures. I mean, obviously, it's possible always to print stuff and take it to a specific location, but to print, we used to do in the old days, where we'd have all those brochures lined up on the walls and stuff. We don't we haven't done that in a while. So if we have a specific thing, like, you know, in the case of Wolverine, where we have specific things that should go out for public viewing at, you know, say a canoe launch or a fishing location, those are things that we could do special. But at this point, I don't think we've got anything that's specifically more of a PFAS 101 that is has been printed, you know.
Okay.
Professionally printed, at least.
You know, Abby,
Well-
on that, if I could jump in for a second, Lynn.
Yeah, go right ahead, Cindy.
You know, when we
Yeah.
talk about accessibility to people, we try to make this in as many different languages and different medium. And there is a subpopulation that really does not do well with computers, doesn't like to do it that way. And so they are going to lose out on information if we can't figure out a way to have some access to hard copies there. So it's just a thought to maybe if we look at it as an accessibility issue for some people, that may be a way to consider, whether we put it in a public library or at a town hall or something like that. So
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
thought
mean,
about that.
Go ahead. What I'm basically saying is if we had a basic PFAS 101 that applied to just everything basic, so that it would kind of correlate from whatever the video is and other things, I think it'd be enormously helpful. That's the sort of thing that if I was going around, like we still live in a small town, we actually walk around and, you know, knock on, I mean, not, let me say, I would be, there are a lot of people that I might bump into who would read a brochure and want to learn more, and they would not go to a website. And also, I think on a website, people just get dazed after a while being on a screen all day long. You sit down with a brochure, a cup of coffee, you just look at it differently. So I'm just saying I think that could be a goal to turn it somehow into a simple brochure. I think it could be useful at public meetings and, you know, that kind of thing. Just a thought. That's all.
thanks, Lynn. Connie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of quick points on with regard to Lynn's comment. I think that's really valid. In Kent County, for example, at the City Hall there or their Department of Public Health, they have brochures on radon. Why can't we have a brochure in our city halls, in our libraries, and even our Starbucks? Starbucks could say, hey, our coffee is PFAS free. And you'd have a little brochure there, right there at Starbucks, so people could, you know, get into it. The second comment relates to John's comment about our mission statement. I think the mission statement is pretty well stated. When we say to reduce, we know we won't be able to eliminate it entirely, but that is the goal. And if you're familiar with the 1972 Clean Water Act, what was the goal in the Clean Water Act? Zero discharge of pollutants. We're doing the same sort of thing with this mission statement. Realistically, it'll probably never be eliminated. We'll always have it in our bodies, but our goal really has to be to reduce it so people are not exposed, especially for the young children. Okay, that's it, Sandy.
Thanks, Connie. All right, Dave, you sparked a lot of conversation there with prevention. So
Appreciate it. Hey, I do have one question. Abby, you mentioned the last item. Is this something that MPART might consider? And the reason I asked that question is that I'm getting ready to schedule another subcommittee review meeting, and we have a lot of information that we could start to compile. And I don't really want to spend that time if that's not something that MPART thinks might be something that we'd want to try to do.
I think I'd like to have it, if you guys want to start compiling it, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
My only hesitation would be I want to be very careful about putting documents out on the state website that companies may come back and say, hey, you've you know, slandered my company by saying it had PFAS and we've lost business or whatever, those kinds of things. We need to be careful about what we're posting, how we're posting, and making sure that we've got good, robust information to go with it. So let's just be careful about you know, the list that we put out there to make sure it's well vetted, I guess. Is
And that's one of the reasons, item number 4, that's why we pretty much felt the same thing, was that due to probably some product liability, I didn't want anybody in the subcommittee or any part of MPART being, brought into court or being held liable for something that, is not something that we really want to try to do.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of information already out there. I know the state of Washington has been doing some PFAS research on their product testing packaging testing. And so I think, even pulling in some of the other reference materials from other states would be great as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think we can definitely, that would be another robust subcommittee meeting we can have.
Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And Sandy, before we leave that, I put a link in the chat for Lynn and the rest of you guys to look at. This is a fact sheet that DHHS put together on PFAS in drinking water. I think this is kind of what you guys might be thinking about for the types of brochures. If this is kind of what you're looking at for, we do have these kinds of things that I think DHHS did print up, and we might be able to get some distributed around. But just take a look at it and see if this is what you were thinking or not.
Great. And, maybe we'd want to have something for PFAS in surface water, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple of these that are already developed, but this one, I think
that's great.
DHHS has actually done a spectacular job on this one, and I really like it.
That's great. Wow, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Yep.
It's really great to have something to build from. And Dave, I have one last question for you because it's still kind of royal to me, I guess. But you probably know this, but Wolverine Worldwide covers their waterproof shoes with PFAS still. They just apply it over in China.
Yep.
But it's still on the shoes that people wear.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a lot of product information out there.
Go figure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Superintendent had her hand up and then she, I don't know, decided to put it back down. So.
I was just going to say that we could possibly create a brochure with material similar to this fact sheet. This one I think is 3 pages long, and for a library that might be a little bit difficult. But it's possible we could take some of this content and make a brochure that would be easier for distribution in libraries and things. And I would imagine too that we're going to at some point be starting our in-person public meetings. And we do hand out a lot of information at those meetings as well. So it's another opportunity.
That's wonderful.
All right. Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. Is that it for prevention? I think it is. Okay, membership committee. Who's going to talk on the membership committee? Because I know Mary was doing a lot of that, and she is not here. Daniel or your son want to present, or?
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm having some connection issues here, so I can't see anybody, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, so update on the membership committee. We got all the ballots in, sent out an email blast that has all the specific details on the numbers if folks want to check that out. But Sandy, Mary, and Rick were the top 3 vote getters as per the ballot, and so they're the ones that advance and are elected. We have all of the information if anybody wants that. We put in unique identifiers for each ballot to make sure that we weren't double counting, but we also wanted to respect people's privacy as much as we could. So unless there are any questions about that, we can, we're reported the final result and we have copies of all the ballots and everything. But unless people want more information on that, we can just let that lie. Yeah, the basic procedure, people filled out their ballots, sent them back to Mary. We realized, after we started doing that Mary was on the ballot. So, it'd be good to have Joe and I count them. So, what Mary forwarded all the ballots to us. We checked to make sure that they were unique. We entered everything into a spreadsheet, and then, I gave them a couple counts through, and Joe confirmed it. And that's how we got the result that we got. So if anybody has any questions on that, happy to try to answer it.
Oops, Joe has his hand up. Yes, Joe.
Yeah, as the other guy on the committee, I'd like to just thank you, everybody who participated. And in terms of counting numbers, I think Dan and I are pretty good. Dan and I are not candidates for the positions, so it was independent counting by two independent people. So thank you very much.
All right. It sounds like there's no indication of voter fraud or anything we need to get wound up about. So
I would like to say a thank you to the membership committee. I thought it went very smoothly, and really appreciate the work that happened. And I'm really grateful to Sandy and Rick and Mary for being willing to take these leadership roles. It means a lot. And so thank you for what you're willing to do.
Thanks, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you still got your hand up? Oh, never mind. Okay, so that's it on subcommittees. Anything else we got to talk about with subcommittees? All right. One thing that did come up was some ideas about organizational tools for the COG. Some people struggle with signing in on Teams versus Zoom. So Charlie had a lot of good ideas on that. So I asked Charlie if he could talk a minute about some ideas and get some feedback on people or on things. So Charlie, if you can, take it away.
Can you hear me all right? Okay, thanks,
Yep.
Sandy. I would like to echo Lynn's words of thanks to Mary and Sandy and Rick, to Joe and Dan for counting the ballots, and the subcommittees as well. I was really impressed with in particular with the PFAS prevention and elimination messaging and content that was shown tonight. One kind of housekeeping comment. I was kind of looking around on my screen for chat. I think Abby mentioned it, but I don't see it. So maybe some people have it and some people don't. There was a time when I thought I knew where it was, but I'm not seeing it. Anyways, just wanted to make you aware of that. It's not a huge deal from my point of view. Sandy, you kind of put me on the spot. You probably told me I was going to need to say something here tonight. And of course, I have no recollection of that. Amnesia is a great thing sometimes, but not tonight. Some of my thoughts were in terms of technology for the overall COG and the subcommittees. And this is, of course, adoption of any of this is at the option of the individual subcommittee members and the overall COG. But one of the thoughts I had was that perhaps the subcommittee that I was working on, notification of the public, what might be useful, I suggested it might be useful for that subcommittee to have its own Zoom account so it can set up Zoom meetings at will. I don't know I certainly haven't taken any polls or anything, but I know in my experience, Teams often presents more of a challenge to use than Zoom does. But Zoom accounts that a committee might use or a subcommittee might use may cost some money depending on the functionality and things like that. Another tool that may be useful for either the overall COG or for subcommittees would be a tool like Slack, which allows people to kind of focus, converse on different themes, or I think they're called channels in Slack. People can create a channel, let's say on, the topic of notification or a subtopic of notification, and then people can, of course, can communicate with one another, and you can see all the communications and replies that have been posted on that particular topic. So rather than having lots of emails flying back and forth, and depending on your email client, whether you're using conversations or not, which for me is extremely confusing. I use Gmail and I'm just completely befuddled with conversations. But Slack is an alternative tool for collaborating and corresponding and discussing. Again, there's some expense involved, and if you want the version that has good functionality. And then finally, for documents, we took Google Docs for a test drive last week. That seems like it's in the distant past, and but I put a document up on my Google Cloud, and we accessed it, and we all could look at it while we were making edits, and the edits were tracked, and we could see who changed what in the document and when they changed it. It's not without, sometimes there's challenges if, and Rick can comment on these, and there's other tools that are out there. So those were a couple things. The Google Docs, wouldn't cost us much to establish. I think the Slack and the Zoom would cost, individuals more money, kind of on a monthly basis to have access to it. So not too much in the way of a free lunch here in terms of modern tools for communicating, virtually and getting work done. Anyways, Sandy, I hope that's a good synopsis.
You did great. You're really good at just pulling that right out. So way to go. I'd hate to see what you did if you prepared. I do think this is something we should have a conversation about, though, moving forward, because I think as we're trying to do a lot of work, it would help for us to join the 21st century and maybe find ways to do this so that everybody can participate. So I don't know how we do this moving forward, what the thoughts are. If anybody's got ideas.
Well, personally, I don't know.
Rick looks like
ahead, Rick.
he's muted but talking.
There we go. Yeah, I don't have, necessarily a super idea here, but Kelly, we have a little, the subgroup engaging the public. We're trying OneDrive as a way to store documents. So I was able to sign in, but it took me 10 steps. But once you do that, you can access it. So OneDrive is Microsoft, so you have the the same track changes, editing a Word document, which I like. So if that works, I guess Eagle does make available OneDrives to individuals that want to share documents on occasion. So we're trying that as a means to access and share documents. So just an update.
All right. Kelly, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so I created a COG work folder to kind of trial this out, test it out with Rick and Connie. Connie was the one that brought it up in the Engaging the Public subcommittee. I know I can share it with a couple people, but I'm going to have to get with our information technology management division or something like that to find out if if I'm limited to the number of people that I can share that folder with. And also I need to understand the storage capacity. I don't know how much information you guys want to store out there, but I'm sure there's probably limitations to how big that can get. So I just proposed it as a potential option that might be available.
Okay. Well, let's have people think about it. I mean, a lot of us work outside of the cog and probably use different things. And so maybe we can put this on the agenda for a later time as people have some ideas on how they want to work together on this. Because I do know, I think Daniel brought this up before too, just the volume of emails sometimes can get a little bit overwhelming on things. So,
Sandy, can I just
yes,
say one
Lynn.
thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what the cost is. I mean, if it's under $500 to be able to have good tools available and easy to use, I mean, that doesn't seem like much money at all. I mean, that's the sort of thing where if it takes Rick 10 steps to get into something and there's limits, I thinking like the meeting that we had a week ago, Kelly got us started and then she had to go somewhere, and then we continued on with that meeting as a group and we finished our task. And if we're always dependent and upon the larger organization to complete the task, it slows things down. It was a very nice gesture of Kelly to do that. In fact, I forgot to sign off and she came back on and reminded me I was still on a half hour later. But it was a really helpful thing, that idea that she had, but I don't know if she can do that all the time. So I like what Charlie is sharing about, and I like the idea of channels for different topics, even like brochure, like an idea to collect what should be on a brochure. I mean, that would be something if I could get to it, I could contribute ideas for future brochures if it's simple. I'm always of the opinion the money is not the thing. That's all.
So it sounds like this is something that we want to look at in the future, and we'll need to look at different techniques and different costs and strategies for how to do this. And I'll put that on the agenda. All right. All right.
Can I add one more thing, Sandy?
Sure.
In regards to like posts, if you guys want your meetings posted to the MPART calendar. So unfortunately, I don't have access to our website. So if you were to send me a link, I can't just go to our website and put it out there. It has to come to me, and then I have to send it on to the Eagle web team. And based on their priorities, you know, it might be able to get posted right away, or it might be a couple weeks. So just have that understanding when you're thinking about, you know, Zoom links and how often, that kind of thing. With these meetings, I generate the link and it's the same link every month. So I don't constantly have to go to our web team.
And our web, and just as along those same notes, our web team for Eagle is 2 people. So we do not have much of a web team to support all the functions of Eagle and MPART. And so we try to use them as diligently as possible so that we're not burdening them already, because they're already posting so much stuff. But it is definitely a handicap when it comes to those kinds of things. So, you know, to make sure that our tools are not only easy to use, but that they're understandable, repeatable, so that we don't have to continually post them is important too. So, and I know we have channels in Teams, and you know, I think there's a lot of different ways with these tools that we can go. but let's try to pick something that's pretty easy for people to grasp and to get, because there's so many ways that we can befuddle the conversation even more with the channels and the links and all the @ signs. It gets to be a little overwhelming for even those of us who are using the technology every day.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm concerned because I do know I've heard some people say they really can't use Teams. And so I don't want to exclude people. I'm trying to figure out a way that we can do all of this. So I think this will need to be an ongoing conversation. I hate to say it, but maybe another dreaded subcommittee or something. So sign up for an existing subcommittee, or you may get drafted onto the organizational tools for the COG newly formed subcommittee. All right. So with that, that's I feel like we've done through all the subcommittee reports. Wow, Kelly, this is cool. So I sent out an email. We were going to have a conversation about biosolids and PFAS in the food chain, because I think that is of great concern to me, and I think it's of great concern to most people after the discussion we had at the last meeting about the beef farm, and hearing some things from other states. I know I did an interview with a journalist out of Maine about contamination just this weekend in food. But I also understand that MPART is very short-staffed right now and going through a lot of stuff. And so I don't want to lose this. I thought maybe this would be a time to brainstorm what questions we would have so that they can come back next month with maybe some answers and we can have more of a dialogue. So I just wanted to open it up. These were the questions that we had gotten, or I had gotten on email, but maybe there's more. So if people have other questions that they think we want to be able to throw out there, or discussion they have about the biosolids and PFAS in our food chain, now is the time. So raise your hand. Anyone? Get out of here.
Well, what are you asking us to specify,
Oh.
Sandy? Like,
Rick's got his hand up.
oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that on My Waters, which is a very large website that the state operates, if you search for biosolids, you can find out literally where biosolids have been applied right around your house or anywhere in Michigan. It's really scary to do. So that's something that I think we should all be aware of. And I don't it's not necessarily the best thing to have the public look at, although it's like I said, once you look at it, I live in a rural area, and there's quite a few biosolid sites right around where I live. So, but I have a deep well, so it's not of concern to me. But anyway, that's something that's available if people are concerned about crops that are grown right in your area. You can look on My Waters and you can find out. Otherwise, when we get hamburger at Meijer, I mean, it may not be from Michigan. I mean, it's really hard to track down, what's actually produced in Michigan. But I don't think there's a lot of testing that's being done on milk and eggs and poultry. So I'd be interested to hear what MPART or what MDART has to say about that. But the question on the fruits and vegetables, there's a really good study about what types of plants take up PFAS, and the grains are the ones that have the least ability to take them up, and the root vegetables, celery and things like that have the greatest degree. So that's already known, but yeah, it's a complicated situation, and there isn't a lot of information. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that you can look at my waters and find out where biosolids are applied. And I even use that to look like at Ionia County, where they have, PFAS problem in their at their wastewater plant. You can actually, you can't trace it back to where the biosolids originated from, but I mean, you can just see all the area that's where biosolids are applied in Ionia County. So it's a really good tool to at least come up to speed and look at the question. So
That's a good resource. Thanks, Rick.
yeah.
Can we make sure that gets written somewhere so people can refer to that? Gail's got her hand up, and then Tony.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what is the definition of biosolids?
Well, biosolids is generally, from a wastewater standpoint, it's generally sludge.
Like, are you talking manure?
No.
Or what?
No.
No, it's generally sludge from a some type of an operation, wastewater sludge.
Yeah, it's almost always defined as a byproduct of a wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
So composting is not biosolids. Paper sludges are not biosolids. There's a lot of things that kind of get lumped into that category. It's not the same thing. Biosolids specifically come from a wastewater treatment plant and are regulated under EPA's programs. We have the ability within the state to regulate, but they're different products.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tony.
Thank you, Sandy. First off, I just want to comment that the subcommittee reports tonight were excellent. And I just really want to commend the subcommittee members and also Sandy. And this is probably one of the best COG meetings I've attended. And I just think it shows the power of the collective brainstorming and the talents of the people in this group that are beginning to come together and do some really good work. On the biosolids issue, though, the questions that come to mind for me are, what is Michigan doing in comparison to Maine, which as I understand it, has set standards quite a bit lower than Michigan's, and set standards where Michigan hasn't. For example, if the Maine standards and approach were applied in Michigan, would that wipe out the biosolids program? That's what I've been told. What is being done to test the land on which the biosolids have been applied for years and years and years and years and years? It's my understanding that, we're looking, I think rightfully, at the what's coming out of the wastewater treatment plants now, but there's a historical problem potentially as well. And so I get the sense that there is a concern, I think rightfully so, about putting farmers out of business, which is the last thing anybody wants to do. But I'm also concerned that as a result of that, there's been a bit of a paralysis and a failure and an unwillingness to take a look at some of those hard numbers, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. It's going to get tested by other people, and then it's going to blow up in the state's face. And so I think there needs to be a much more a broad ranging approach to this, to understand that there may be instances, I think there are going to be instances well beyond this case in Livingston County. I think that to suggest that that's the only case that's happened is wishful thinking. And I think that we need to take a look at how are we going to indemnify farmers like the person in Livingston County where this may come up again. And are we going to take a serious look at investigating what I understand are 7,000 plus sites in our state at the land basis, at the crop basis, and then, what ends up in the food chain. It's a big issue. And I don't mean to be critical of what's happened today, because I know it's moving fairly quickly, but I think that there are real issues and questions that need to be addressed in looking forward and getting as far ahead of this as we can. So with that, I will close off, and I just again want to thank everybody for their efforts here tonight.
Thanks, Tony. Those are excellent questions.
Yeah,
Can
do we
answer some,
want,
Abby?
well, I don't know. Do we want to actually try to tackle that tonight, or do we want to assign that to a next meeting? Because I don't have my biosolids people on here, but
Well,
we,
I was planning on us just making a list. I'm writing down questions as people put
okay,
them out there. And then I thought what I could do is send out the questions to everyone. We could make sure we've got a comprehensive list, and then you could get it to those folks so that they can come prepared. I don't want to, you know, like blindside people either. These are, I think, really important issues that, you know, people want to have answers to, but they need time to pull those answers together. So you could just relax and get a cup of tea while we come up with our questions, if that works for you. So
that's fine.
you wish, right? Okay, John, you were next, and then Teresa. Jody, put
Hi.
your hand on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the Eagle has had a very successful program on monitoring PFAS in biosolids last several years. I know that because I am also a member of the Emerging Contaminants Committee of the Michigan Water Environment Association. So we have a monthly updates from Eagle. So Stephanie is the staff there who could possibly update you, all the members here as well. So the topic is a very important topic. We know a lot, but at the same time, historically, as Tony says, there's a long history that went along, say, 60, 70, 80 years. So I think it's a good topic. We should learn more about it before we can do anything for ourselves.
That's a good point. I think the more we're educated, the better questions we can ask and understanding we'll have. So thank you. Teresa, I think you had your hand up. And now
Yes, I did.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to echo Tony's sentiments about the biosolids and the situation going to blow up in our face later. Here in Detroit, we're dealing with biosolids coming from industry, and one of them is sulfur dioxide. You know, at Marathon, they have the sulfur recovery unit, and they told us in a meeting a couple of weeks ago that the byproduct, which is the dirty part that is turned into the biosolid, is then ground up and turned into fertilizer to be sold. So I'm looking at the process of how do they purify the sulfur dioxide out of the biosolid enough to sell it as fertilizer to the farmers or even feed. And then I'm thinking in my head that since we know that PFAS is a forever chemical and it's in biosolids, that if it is utilized in fertilizer, it's going to go into the fruits and vegetables. And then, as we just learned with the cattle contamination at the farm up there in a couple of months ago, they found PFAS in all of the cattle, and they were trying to make the determination of what to do with the cattle. Should they be destroyed or what? So I'm thinking in my mind that these chemicals are just being, these pollutants are just being transferred from one area and going through one process and another, and then it's exposing us to contaminants. So that's my concern, and I look forward to understanding better how they're going to handle biosolids being put into fertilizer and into feed, because I really think that, as Tony mentioned, later on in life or later on down the road, we're going to find out we've been exposed more than we anticipated, because we're going on the faith that our food and stuff is safe, well, you know, that we're coming from our farmlands. So I yield.
Thanks, Teresa. Those are good points. I didn't know anything about that in Detroit. So you always educate me. All right, let's see. Dave and then Connie.
Yeah, the question, I guess the question I have is the I know that the biosolids are, is used for fertilizer and things like that. But what about fish and wildlife? I mean, right now, a lot of these biosolids are, used for fertilizer and things like that. They get, diluted and drained off into surface water, which then ultimately goes into lakes and streams. So is fish a concern? I mean, a concern? Is wildlife a concern? I mean, that could be, just the fish itself could be a huge item.
Yeah, that's a big part of our state economy too. Connie.
Yeah, just a couple points. In regard to Gail's question about biosolids, being plastic sewage, it's basically feces, human feces, and your contents from your garbage disposal. So that's a big part of wastewater sludge. We use the term sludge instead of saying, hey, it's really poop and other things, because it sounds better. But that's, and when you have human feces, you also have things other than PFAS. You will have pharmaceuticals. All kinds of pharmaceuticals will be in those feces. That is then spread all over the land, in cropland. Okay, Teresa Landrum made very, very good points. And I do recall the milorganite. That sounds like a really nice name and stuff you really want to put on your soil. But it's really the ground up sludge that is packaged. It's from a Milwaukee, if I remember right. That's why it's called mill. I think it's a Milwaukee wastewater treatment plant that decided to take its sludge, process it, and put it in bags so you could put it on your land. But again, you're getting all kinds of stuff in there. You're getting your PFAS, you're getting your pharmaceuticals in there. And then two questions. One is for John. When did Eagles start monitoring biosolids for PFAS? I'd sure like to know, was it in the last 2 or 3 years or less than that? And then for Rick, I would love to see that article about which crops take up the most PFAS from biosolids being applied to the land. Because I know in the Muskegon area, that used to be a big area for celery farms. I remember that when I was a kid yet. There used to be huge celery farms there. And you mentioned that was one of the ones that was taking up a lot of the PFAS. So just those two questions, be interesting to get the answers. Rick, if you could email me that article, or if we could put it on the MPART website, because I think everybody should know that. They're going to be starting to plant their gardens right now, getting ready for that anyway. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I can send you the article, Connie. It's not a problem. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Connie. Yeah, I had the same thought about the celery farms. As somebody who grew up in Parchment and Kalamazoo, those celery farms in Kalamazoo are right by the paper mills. So, okay, so I think that's all the COG members. I see that we have, I think it's State Senator Rosemary Baer here. She's got her hand up. So, yes, feel free. You're next.
I do have my hand up. Thank you for that. I appreciate being able to be here today. I got invited by some of my LCV friends. So, because I'm trying to work in this space from a legislator's perspective, and you guys seem to be and sound like very good input to our work. That's for sure. So, I did see last week I was in a meeting, an MPART meeting about the Arbor Hills landfill issues in Northville. And one of the things that they spun out, the folks from the department handed out was a list of websites, including one for fish testing. So there is testing in different parts of the system. It's not consistent. And I think they are not adding PFAS everywhere yet, testing for it, right? So I think one of the really great things about what you're doing is asking the question, where are we testing? How do we know the food is safe? Because they are forever chemicals. And we know that things like the leachate that comes out of landfills is stocked full of PFAS and it gets sent to wastewater treatment, which dilutes it and sends it out into the system. I mean, we have not yet, the only way at this point to deal with PFAS and PFOS is to filter them. So and ship them somewhere, bury them underground or send them off to space or whatever absurdity is next until we figure out how to smash them apart. So it's a very good question, I think, to keep pushing on testing and information, right? So making sure that it was sad for me to listen into the participate in the Northville call and hearing people that didn't really understand the dangers of what was in their backyard and what is the potential for that. So not really getting enough information. So they are starting to create things. I saw your handout. That was one of the things they had last week also. So getting that is good. Asking for it is good. Just keep asking for everything you want, And then if I can help, I mean, I sit on the EGLE committees, both the legislative committee as well as the budget committee. I'm the minority vice chair, in fact. So there are things we can try to do if we identify things that really need to be done. And I think you guys are all doing the right thing. And I look forward to hearing your voices.
Thank you so much for attending and giving us that. I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking your time to be here because I know you guys are pretty busy right now. So I think we all appreciate any help we can get on this because we are all residents of the state and want to work together. So I have been writing down all of these questions and comments as we go along. So I think we will, I'll send out an email so we can add more and then get that over to you, Abby. I know that sounds like this is going to be an MDARD, a DNR. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of different departments that are going to be needing to kind of look at some of these questions. I think Teresa had her hand up again and Gail had her hand up again. And Dave, do you still have your hand up or is that an additional hand up?
That's additional hand up.
All right. So Dave and then Teresa and then Gail.
Okay, I have one quick question. I'm sitting here tonight and I'm listening about biosolids and looking at the effects of beef, milk, poultry, vegetables. Is anything been done to try to ban biosolids through legislation in the state of Michigan to eliminate a lot of these problems?
So we follow the EPA guidelines and they continue to say that the biosolids are safe for use on food products. So I don't believe the EPA is testing yet, or at least I have never seen any numbers coming out of them for these kind of tests. Yeah, some people are shaking their heads. So I think it's probably going to fall on all of us to start demanding more information. The challenge is keeping up, right? I mean, every time there's another set of poisons, we have to demand that they be tested for, and it's certainly a challenge for our departments here, right? Just because everything costs money, and there are nearly 7,000 sites already that we know of, and who knows what else, because they are forgiven chemicals and they travel through the water, so they're going to end up all over the place. So that's going to be the challenge, but maybe the opportunity to talk to our federal representation as well to say, hey, what can we do about the EPA? Can we start changing some of those PFAS guidelines? I will tell you, we did change the guidelines for lead in water in Michigan. We actually, because we had learned so much at Flint and set better standards than the rest of the country, the EPA finally followed our standards. So they do that. But we should push on everybody we can to get this stuff done, including me, actually. I mean, I'm learning as I'm listening to you guys, and the better the question is, the more specific the answer we can get, the more likely it is that we'll be able to do something about it. So.
All right. Thank you. Teresa.
Yes, thank you so much, Senator Bayer. That just brought up a concern for me. I wanted to ask Eagle, are you doing the testing, or is the federal government doing the testing, or are they sending it out to independent labs? Because we learned that a lot of the tests that we had asked Eagle to do as far as air quality on metals or VOCs or other chemicals, that Eagle didn't have the capability to do so. So I want to know who's doing the testing. And because if that's the case, then we need to ask for studies to be done immediately, because we don't know how long we've been exposed. And I thank you, Senator Baer, and said we trust the federal government, EPA fires testing. And I'm sorry to say I don't, because we have been hoodwinked many years, and to later find out we've been exposed to lead. And then my tolerance is zero PFAS, zero PFAS exposed, zero lead, zero mercury, zero chemicals in our water and in our soil and in any byproduct, biosolid product to be put on our soils, because once it rains down chemicals. The chemicals in the soil are then wet. Also, they join with those chemicals. They go into our vegetables, and we've been learning later that our vegetables have a certain amount of expectancy to be contaminated, but is not harmful to humans. And we find later in life that these chemicals have created a unique kind of cancer or unique kind of chronic illness that would plague our children. So I want to know who's doing the testing. Is it what are the capabilities of Eagle to test for this? If not, are they using independent labs that has the capability to test? Thank you.
Okay, can I answer a few of those questions?
Sure.
Those are all great questions, Teresa. So yes, Eagle has been doing, the testing has been sent out to Vista Labs, who has been doing a lot of our testing for the last 4 or 5 years. We are slowly getting up to speed we've got drinking water capabilities, and we are getting to the point of being able to do biosolids internally, but that is not quite there yet. To that extent, though, we did do statewide studies for biosolids. We had our contractor collect those samples, and all of those reports are on our website. We can post a link here so you guys can see the testing that's already been done, not only for biosolids and for the wastewater treatment, influent, effluent, and the biosolids, but also for the we took the worst of the concentrations coming out of the wastewater treatment plants, and then backtrack to look at those fields that had been had the highest concentrations applied at the most frequency, and then did soil and groundwater investigations at those fields. So a lot of that work has been done. I won't say that it's complete. To Tony's point, there's always more that can be done, but I think we've got a pretty good handle on what it looks like in the state of Michigan. But obviously we're going to continue to push that and make sure we understand the full extent. And to Senator Bayer's point, yeah, EPA is following our lead on this because we have more data than any of the other states in the country when it comes to biosolids, wastewater treatment plants, and effluent discharges. So EPA is pretty much talking to us daily to get our data and then structure their biosolids testing after what we've done. So we're kind of leading that on that front, but they are probably a couple years away from setting standards.
Oh.
They're working on it, but they have a risk assessment they got to do first before they can establish the levels. So you're probably, they said they would have the risk assessment done by the end of 2023. And then you will probably get standards after that.
Okay, so I want to go on to Gail, but I also want to make sure people know we were also going to discuss the public notification thing, which I know is a big topic we've been working on. So I want to make sure that we kind of move in that direction. So Gail?
Okay, I will be quick. First, I wanted to thank Senator Baer for being here. And also to put a plug in for funding for MPART. Poor Diane not Diane, Abby is all alone. And, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them, but it would be really good to have more funding for MPART itself because PFAS is huge and it will be continued.
Could you guys write that up? Could you write up a little paragraph or two about that? Send it to me.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. I'm on the budget. Honestly, I'm serious about this. Write a lot, write a couple paragraphs. How much and what is it for?
We will get that to you. Yeah.
Yes, because PFAS is going to be around for a long time and we need MPART to be there to get us through this. And that is all. The other remarks answered my question about standards, so I'm good there. So Sandy, take it away.
All right, thank you, Gail. Okay, that was good. That was a slow start, but man, we got revved up. So I will send out these questions to everybody. So if I wrote it down wrong, you can correct it if you have more. And then Abby, I'll try to get it to you by the end of the week or so that you can share it with all the departments involved in the food topic issue. That would be good. Okay, so the public notification. Rick, are you going to take this? Are you going to lead this charge? I don't see where Rick is. Maybe.
Yes, I can. I just need to share my screen, so I'll hit request. Super.
Oh, you're there.
Okay, you want me to go ahead, Sandy, or what?
Yes, if you could,
Okay.
that would be great.
All right. We had an assignment to complete this notification matrix, and the materials or the text that's highlighted in bold is what we were given. So we were given a number of different scenarios, and then we had to fill in who, where, what, when, and how to tell the receptors. So I just think I'll go through these, and I've got I've got this on full screen here. So if anybody has questions, Sandy, if you could just tell me or something, chime in. But anyway, the first one was airports, and this was an airport with no site data. There were drinking water wells in the area and nearby water bodies. So the step that we wanted MPART to do was review the MSDS sheets if they used AFFF foam. And it had to be a certified commercial airport. There's different types of airports, and the certified commercial airport is the one that we felt would have the most likelihood of using the foam. And that would help determine if an investigation was necessary. If AFFF was used, we wanted everybody in a mile radius being notified, and then potentially posting PFAS warning signs on the shoreline of surface water if there was PFAS foam detected. Again, 1 mile around the facility unless groundwater flow directions are confirmed. And we wanted the residents notified in that area that there was a concern for PFAS exposure and that an investigation was pending. We wanted that notification to go out within 1 week of the notification to the PRP or the owner, so the airport would get notified that they need to do an investigation. And then within 1 week, we wanted the residents around that airport notified, and we wanted that done by a letter from the health department. So I think I'll stop there, and any questions on that or comments? Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah, that was easy. Keep going.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll go on to the next one. That's landfills and dumps. And this was limited data. There was no PFAS sampling. There are residential wells monitored for non-PFAS contaminants. So again, the landfill is a typical source for PFAS. And we wanted MPART to monitor the existing wells, leachate, and surface water within a mile radius for PFAS. If there's groundwater users and surface water users, if PFAS is detected, so that's the group to notify. And then if there's surface water concentrations that exceed the water quality standards, then the fish need to be tested. If the wastewater treatment plants are receiving leachate, then the wastewater treatment plant should test the outfall and the receiving water for PFAS compounds. And if the same 1 mile radius of PFAS is detected on site, we want 1 mile radius from the site perimeter until the groundwater flow directions are established. And we want to notify residents that there is a concern again for PFAS exposure, that an investigation is pending. within 1 week of the notification of the owner. And again, the health department should notify residents by letter. And again, our concern for the notification, getting that out there in a week, is pretty much based on maternal health protection. That's the most sensitive receptor for PFAS, and we don't want people that are pregnant or young children to be drinking the water. So it's pretty urgent that once there's PFAS, there's a concern for PFAS now, but once there's data, that there's a notification within 1 week. So the next one was small public water supplies, and that's per Eagle's definition. There's definitions for different sizes of water supplies. There's no source, but there's ongoing monitoring using groundwater as a source for drinking water. So the scenario is that there's a small public water supply, but there's an unknown source, and they're using the groundwater for drinking water. So under that scenario, all the customers need to be notified. And then also, if the PFAS is above the drinking water standards, that they should notify everybody within a 1 mile radius, and notify residents that there is a PFAS investigation started within 1 week of the notification of the owner. And then the health department would be in charge of notifying the residents. And we'd also like to have some notification sent out to the general public by television, TV, newspaper, radio, postcards, letters, etc. So there was a additional form of notification that we wanted under that scenario. Fire training centers, no data, unknown PFAS use, unknown history, mix of municipal water and residential wells in the area. So under that scenario, MPART should review the MSDSs for AFFF foam in both historical and current usages. Everyone within a mile radius should be notified, and if groundwater flow directions are known, then you can change just the down gradient ones, but within a 1 mile radius until the flows are determined. And then PFAS sampling of all public and private wells and nearby surface water bodies. Notify the residents that there's a concern for PFAS exposure. Again, there's no data, but you would actually notify people within a 1 mile radius within 1 week of the notification to the PRP or owner. And the health department would be able to send those notices out. And this one, we would also like some other notices by public TV and radio and newspapers, etc. The last two were a plater and recycler, no groundwater data, and we do have stormwater data that shows there's PFAS there. The discharge goes into a drain, and it's also served with municipal water. So if the municipal water draws its source downstream of that county drain, or if it's in the area source of groundwater, then you have to test the municipal water immediately for PFAS. If it's above the drinking water standard, the owner has to notify all the customers to stop drinking the water. And MPART would notify everybody within a mile radius to catch any potential private well usages in that area. And then what we would be notifying them that a PFAS investigation is launched, and the municipal water supply the same day as the municipal water supply is notified about their PFAS results. And again, the municipal water would notify its customers, and the health department would notify residents by letter. And then finally is a PEAS call, and that's a emergency response, a tanker fire or something like that. And the scenario here is a tanker fire on the highway, run off into a ditch. The first responders have to determine what jurisdiction it is, and then the They have to contact Eagle and review the material safety data sheets to see if the foam contained PFAS. And then you have to notify the property owners near the tanker fire, and this would be done by a visit, notification, knocking on the doors the same day as a tanker fire, and notify the residents that there's a concern for PFAS exposure. So the main takeaway here is that we do want public notification under all these scenarios, and even if you have scenarios where it's highly likely that there might be PFAS contamination, and we do want a notification that there's the potential for exposure. And then if there is data to show that there is contamination, then we go into notifying that a PFAS investigation is taking place. So that pretty much sums up all of our scenario analysis. So if there's any questions, we can talk about them.
Thanks, Rick. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, ideas? All right. Tony and then Connie.
Thank you, Sandy. And Rick, thank you for that presentation, and thank you for your work and the work of others on this project. I have a question, and then I have a couple comments. Rick, is this the work that you did here, was this done strictly by the subcommittee, or was anybody from Eagle involved?
Well, this was done by the subcommittee, and there was I think 5 members, and Kelly was there, so she helped answer some questions about the scenarios, but it was pretty much our work product.
Well, it's good work, and I want to take an opportunity to review it in further detail, but I just want to say this. We have been hearing from the agency for the past several months that this is mission impossible. It's hard, it's difficult. What are you going to do? Oh my gosh, how are you? This group of citizens sat down and laid it out in certain scenarios. And as someone who has been left in the dark by the agency in my community, as someone who has sat through these meetings month after month after month after month and heard nothing but excuses from the agency, I just want to say this: there's no more room for excuses. It's all laid out pretty clearly here. And if you think that you don't have the resources, then let us know. We have members of the legislature here tonight who will help us. But stop sitting on this. It's time for action. Thank you.
And that's an excellent comment, Tony, because one of the things that we did discuss was that if it is a matter of lack of funding for the health department or for MPART to do this work, then it's the responsibility of this group to let our representatives know that this is a definite priority as far as getting messages out to the affected communities, and the funding should be available. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for both of you. I think and I guess I'm putting this out as a comment, Abby, and to all the other agency folks on here, if you look at this and you say, we can't do it because we don't have resources, I want that to be the honest discussion we have so that we as citizens can help advocate for that. Because I don't think any of us involved in this want to see another pregnant mom drink PFAS contaminated water because we didn't have the resources. We just can't do it. So yeah. Connie, you're next. And then I'll go to you, Abby. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a quick point. I think with the public notification subcommittee, it was about 3 hours worth of work, 3 hours to do the first draft. So that was about 6 hours. And then I would guess about 3 hours of Rick Radisky's time in reviewing it and making the corrections would be a total of about 9 hours. So in 9 hours, this subcommittee produced this report. And I appreciate Tony's comments on it. But what I guess I really want to say is that if we work together with Eagle, with MPART, look what we can accomplish. And that's a good thing for people and the residents of our state of Michigan. So, all right, listen, one other quick thing hits my head, and that is when would MPART react to what we have produced? Would we be getting a response back within a week? Or Abby, what do you think?
That's a great question. I mean, my gut feeling is that we have a severe resource issue. Let me just say that. You know, DHS has got 6 toxicologists for over 200 sites on their side trying to do the public health reception. And then Eagle has got, you know, project managers that have an existing workload plus the PFAS work. So we're hitting saturation point. Doing notification work above and beyond what we've been doing is going to be pretty tough. But let us go back and give you an honest and frank response. So I don't want to do something off the cuff here. I know we're going to want to talk internally before I give you that response, but I don't know that I want to come back to you with another written response. I think I'd like to come back to you with either a follow-up subcommittee meeting or something where we can have some honest, because I think there's some give and take. I really like Connie's suggestion that as a group, we can achieve a lot. And so if there's priorities within this list, what are the most important ones that we want to hit? If we do have resources that are limited, how do you want us to prioritize those resources to get the notifications out? So I think that would be our next step in talking and having those discussions.
You know, Abby, let me just throw out one thing that could really help here, because every single county within the state of Michigan has a conservation district. For example, the Wayne County Conservation District is an urban conservation district. They could assist MPART tremendously. And this is the county with the most MPART, with the most PFAS sites. So I think we need to explore other avenues of reaching out. The conservation district could probably do your notification if they were given some grant money to do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Abby, I guess when you come back, then let's have the discussion with the whole cog rather than the subject, because I think we have a lot of good voices here. But I'd also like what you think you need for resources then. But also, we have a lot of great NGOs in this state that would probably be more than willing to help with notification. And maybe we find a way to do some private public, you know, kind of partnerships here with some groups to see if they would be helpful too. So yeah, I'll just throw that out there. Okay, John, then Bill.
Hi, I like those recommendations. I got 2 comments. One, everything here on these tables are something that we can do, or the agencies or whoever we identified could do under their existing regulatory legal side. And the other thing is, if what we're recommending is all legal and everything else, then we're talking resources. Who can actually come through to support these various things, as somebody already mentioned. So if it's illegal, if it's only thing we need is support resources, then I think I like it. I recommend that we should go forward and wait for a response from Abby next week or 2 or month.
That's a good. a good question, John. I think if I understood your question, you're asking whether or not any of this is already required under the current regulations? Is that
That's
what you
correct.
said? Yeah, and no, none of this would be required under current regulations. The only thing that would be required is if, Kelly, if you scroll down to the small public water supply, they do have requirements under the Safe Drinking Water Act to notify their customers if they have an exceedance of the MCL for drinking water, but they do not have a requirement to notify surrounding neighbors that don't use their water supply. So that would be an additional requirement.
Okay.
All right, thank you, John. Bill?
Yeah, Rick, I just have a question on this. So it looks like there's one notification that you're talking about, and that's just an initial notification within 1 week of either PRP or owner notification. And that's like in the first one here on airports. And then that's the health department will notify the residents by letter. And also, I think you're going to post warning on the shorelines. Am I reading that correct? There's just one notification you're talking about here?
Correct. There'd be a note. Are you talking about for airports or which one?
Well, whichever one. I mean, it's hard to tell, but it looks like you're talking about the first notification that goes out to.
Right.
People. Okay.
Yeah, there would be one notification going out, either that there's a potential for exposure if there's a high likelihood site like an airport or a landfill. And then, right, if you had an actual analytical result that said there was PFAS and that it was in the groundwater, then, right, there'd be another notification. But it is one notification once the information is assembled, and then, right, the health department does that. And we felt the health department would be the best one because they're the ones that are the best for answering health related questions about the drinking water issue.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Gail, and then Dave.
Yeah, okay. First, Rick, this is awesome. But I have a question for Abby. What is the procedure for getting these into the regulations as far as these notifications into the regulations?
You'd have to go to the legislature and they'd have to open up the statutes of the various, both you'd have to Part 201, Part 31. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios in here that cover a lot of different regulations. So you'd have to open up the law.
Okay, that's exactly, and that's going to take us time, but it's got to be done. Okay, thank you.
That's why I came.
Yeah, you got your work cut up for you.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, I wanted to just comment. I agree with the group. I think, Rick, you guys have done a great job in this public notification matrix. I think it pretty much gives you a lot of information that I think needs to be moved forward. But I do have one question for Abby. Abby, you mentioned earlier about resources and the need for additional, funding and resources. Wasn't there an executive order put out by the governor in October 25th talking about that specific area? And are you guys working on that type of executive order?
The executive order, I think that you're speaking about the PFAS ban. Is that the
I'm
one you're
talking about the six plan for looking at reviewing drinking water standards, looking at all the different areas inside Eagle and MPART to look at resources, funding. There was a 6-step plan that was put together.
Yeah.
And it was distributed out on October 25th. And I wanted to know, because you mentioned resources and funding, and those were two of the things that, and I want to know, are you guys working on that?
MPART is not specifically working on that, but the Drinking Water Division is going through the whole Safe Drinking Water Act and reviewing it line by line. And I'm pretty sure Andy wants to jump in. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, there's primarily between MDHHS and Eagle. That executive directive has sort of been divvied up into teams that are working on the pieces of it that you're mentioning. I know that DHHS and Eagle, and this is DHHS is the lead on it, are doing what's called a lean process initiative. It's a state, there's resources at the state level to review processes, and they're doing that on public notification. So I know that's ongoing. So there's a lot of work on that. I think we just submitted our first update report to the governor a few weeks ago on progress made on the directive. So that's ongoing. I don't think I can't remember the deadlines for the various pieces, but they weren't immediate. But it might be
done by the end of 2022, from what I understood.
Wouldn't be bad to have people from our team, maybe somebody from DHHS, come at some point this year and give an update to this group on that process. But the work's ongoing, and I know people are obviously have been directed to do so and are committed to meeting the deadlines. So that applies, as we know from going through these scenarios, to those covered by the Safe Drinking Water Act.
Yeah, Andy, I agree with that, but here's a situation where MPART is in desperate need of manpower and funding to be able to do things like this and get things like this done. And I think you've heard from the residents that MPART needs some help.
Yeah, and I think creating a conversation between this group and that process of responding to the executive directive will be helpful, because things like costs are going to come up in that environment too. What are we talking about with costs in terms of working, doing all the things in the final two columns of your matrix here, in terms of notifying residents. So I think I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think it'd be good to get a dialogue going between what we're doing here and that effort.
Thank you.
And I do know, Dave, there's a lot of crossover, not only between this group, but also between our environmental justice work group, on that public notification, communication, transparency, and getting the information to people so they feel like they're informed to not only make public health decisions, but just to be able to trust the agency. And so I know that's part of those conversations that's going on. But with your prompting, Andy and I can take it back to management and push for some additional conversations and see if we can get that inserted in one of these meetings.
Yeah, but like I said, as Tony said, we need to get this done. This needs to move forward.
Yeah. I was going to say, Abby, I think the frustration you're probably hearing is that we came up with this last summer, and we're heading into the next summer, even though the weather doesn't look like it. And we feel like all we're getting is a lot of talk about conversations. And I think we feel like we spent a lot of time, did a document that laid it out for you. We've talked that if you need more staff, we're willing to advocate for that. If it's a matter of some legislation, it sounds like we got a couple here on the call, and I can probably find a few more if we need to talk about that. I think we're past the time of coming in and having more dialogue and conversation. I think we need to really see, like, what's the path forward and how are we going to get this done? And that's where I think community members are getting frustrated. So I'll hand it over to Tony now.
Can I just jump in? I didn't.
Yes, Andy.
Just to clarify, I didn't intend to suggest that the work we're talking about right now needs to, fall in line behind the work on the executive directive, which is much broader and in nature. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a misconception.
All right. Tony.
Thank you, Sandy. I just want to address a point, and I don't think I'm not necessarily sure anybody was suggesting this, but to the issue of whether legislation or regulations are needed, I'm not aware of any legislative changes that are needed in order to implement what is in this matrix. I could stand to be corrected, and I would be delighted to have any kind of a conversation on that. And I will admit I haven't gone into the weeds, into the detail of this, but I don't believe that there is anything in the law that prevents what's being suggested here. And I just want to make sure, because again, we keep hearing, well, this is hard and that is hard, and there's this and there's that and there's this and there's that. If it's a legal issue, tell us, identify it. But don't suggest to us, and I'm not suggesting you are, but I just want to throw this up because we've heard so much over the last year, and a lot of it's been very unsatisfactory. If that's an issue, get it on the table, please. Thank you.
All right. So it looks like the COG members are in favor of the matrix. I think that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if we need to take a vote on that, or if maybe I should just say, is there anybody not in favor of the matrix that is community members? Bill, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think there's some clarity that needs to be put in here. Like, for example, in the first one, it says who, and it doesn't really have a who in there. But the second one, if you look at landfills and dumps, it has the who, groundwater users, surface water users. I think there's some clarity. That was what my confusion was, is like that airport one has, it kind of goes around in circles a couple of times. If it was used, notify people, and then notify them within 1 week of the notification of the PRP owner. And I think there's some clarity that needs to be cleaned up, and especially that first one there.
Okay. So Connie, you got your hand up? And Rick's coming on to provide clarity, I think.
Well, I think if you have some comments, Bill, just I think you got a copy of it. Just you mark it up, and I'll gladly look at it for revisions. I can see what you're saying about that.
Yeah, actually,
we definitely got better at this. Our first our first go around was very painful, but by the end we were really flying through. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I just would like other people to look at it, and if something doesn't make sense or whatever, just provide some feedback, and we'll finalize it. So I'm very used to peer review. So
yeah, I appreciate that, Rick, but I'm not sure I have a copy of this electronic form.
Okay. Well, I
could you just
send that out to everybody?
Yeah, I sent that out to everybody with the agenda and the slides.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, but I'll send you one, Bill. So
aside from, I'm hearing maybe some clarification and cleanup of things, is the COG in agreement that we would like people to be notified at least by letter within a week, or as laid out in this matrix? Is that are we in agreement on that, so that we have something that we can ask MPART to respond to? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes.
And Connie, you got your hand up. You're going to help me here.
Yeah, I just want to say to Bill, the ones that you're trying to hit in this airport are the people that are on groundwater wells, because it says you have drinking water wells in the area. That's the scenario. So if that is the scenario, then logically you're going to notify everyone who has a drinking water well within a 1 mile radius. So Rick, you just need to add that in there. Everyone with a drinking water well within a 1 mile radius. You just add the drinking water well owners. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just would like, anybody that's wants
Yeah.
clarifications
Well,
like that, just highlight it or mark it up, track changes or whatever, and, send it back to me and we'll take a look at it.
I was just trying to clarify Bill's question.
All right, Bill, your hand's up again or still?
No, again, that does, my comment was notify people by letter. I think the second part on the notification that has to be in there is posting the surface water bodies, because that's different than the letter, and we have to acknowledge that we're agreeing to that. It's not all letters by health department, but somebody's going to post surface water bodies, and it's not exactly clear. I presume that's somebody with the state's going to go out and post the water bodies, but I think that needs to be added, for example, in the last column, because it says not only wells on the airports, but nearby water bodies. Yep. And it's a second type of how notification occurs.
Now, just a question. Does the health department post those water bodies, or does the state post the a notification? Like for PFAS foam, does the health department do that, or the state? Or Eagle or the health department? They're both the states.
Could be either or both or neither. It depends on, it depends on the water body, depends on the situation. Every one of these situations is unique.
Right.
And I will tell you, in some cases we will have, so as I'm just thinking about how we will come back and give you our best assessment of this. In some cases, we will not be able to push any of this work to the health departments. It's going to be, they've got 1 or 2 sanitarians for their entire county or their entire health department district. So there will be some of this. In some cases, there might be some capacity, but I know with all of the other things going on with the health departments, they're very, very stretched.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be something we'll have to consider when we look at this.
Yep, and that's something to talk about too. So yep.
Yep.
I appreciate
so back to looking at resources.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right, Connie, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just one quick thing that's occurring to me, and I want to get the idea out right now. We're focusing a whole heck of a lot on resources, and we're saying, okay, state of Michigan, taxpayers, you pay for everything. Maybe from the legislator's point of view, it's about time that they have the people that are using PFAS hit them with a heavy tax, and that would be a part of the resources. The polluter pays. So, okay, you're using PFAS, you're going to end up as a polluter, you pay. So you can help us clean this up. So I just wanted to throw that out for the legislators to think about potentially responsible parties or potentially responsible users, that they be hit with a tax. Now, the downside is they're going to say, okay, I'll go to Ohio instead. That would be the downside of it. But I believe the polluter pays should really be a part of this.
All right. So we have a couple people that are legislators. Hopefully they will take this in. What would you like our next step to be here, Abby, with this, or COG members?
Rosemary's got her hand up before we finish
up. Oh, all right. Rosemary.
Well, I don't know if you wanted me to comment on that or not. We certainly have introduced multiple pieces of polluter pay legislation that consistently get denied hearings and votes. So there's a lot of favoring of businesses in the state, and right now it's a party politic issue.
I think I'm aware of that, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
We will. Obviously, it's a battle that we care a lot about. I will say this, in the first water budget that I put together this year, $5 billion of that, we had actually put in $250 million for cleanup. And they reduced it down to like 20 million or something. It's like not even enough for one site, actually. So
Wow.
it's gonna be a battle for a while until we
Yeah.
change the
But
structure.
I do
It's
think it's
profit
important.
versus human health.
I think it's important that you hear that every community member on here is very committed that we need to do better with public notification when there's an investigation that's starting.
Yeah,
And
I
we need to have
love it. I
resources.
love the sheet. But Abby's right. To do that many things is going to cost a bunch of money, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it, right? It means that we need to figure out, one, priorities are a good idea, but also what is it going to cost? And this has been one of my challenges. I'm new. I came in new to the legislature, my first elected office 3 years ago. And right away, because I'm on both of the Eagle budget and the legislative committees, kept asking, what would it cost to do the whole thing? What would it cost to resolve all those issues? What would it cost to, do your whole list, right? What would that cost be? And the answer that kept coming back was, we're not allowed to do that. They don't look at the whole thing because they've been battered for so long, budget wise. And literally, never enough people and never enough money to actually do the work. So when we know there's 6,000 sites, do we go out to those sites and actually try to figure out which ones need remediation? No, we don't, because there's not even enough money to do that. And I sit in the committees. I mean, it happened today, literally today, on our budget committee, where, the fighting back against the request for additional resources, people wise, this year was like 50 people, which is not a big number for a department of this size, especially considering that my whole $5 billion budget didn't go through, but the one that did get passed through the Senate and is over at the House now is $3.5 billion. And there is some cleanup, but not nearly enough. But there's recognition of the need to spend money on some of this water work, but not for people, not for resources to do the work. So, it is a big issue with the current majority party, and we're going to keep working on it, and hopefully we'll make some progress. I mean, at some point, if we pass a $3 billion water budget, and they don't agree to any people, we simply won't be able to do the work. And maybe then they could wake up and notice there's something wrong with their plan.
Well, that's the thing. They want to appear to be doing something, but not really actually do it.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I'm a former city council person. I know the drill.
All right. So it's 8 o'clock. I'm trying to keep us somewhat on task here. There's some news, but I don't want to drop. We're not going to drop this, Abby. You know that. Like public
Oh, no,
notification is not done. Okay.
I do.
I mean,
know
it's
that.
done for tonight, but it's not done. Okay.
Yeah, and to the point, it's not that the issue, we don't totally agree with the issue and totally agree with the notification that we would like to do.
Okay. So we can agree in theory that we all want this to happen. It's just, how do we get it to done? Well, that's easy. We can figure that out. That's not a long stretch. No, seriously, that's easy. We can do that part. So, okay. So I'll let you guys take it away with new sites.
Yeah, just a couple here, but we have many more in the hopper. And so for this month's meeting, Limtal was one down in Oakland County, and then Wood Island Landfill is up in the UP. Both of those went live and are on the MPART website. Neither are well, Limtal's actually got some pretty high concentrations. The Wood Island landfill's pretty mild concentrations, but obviously both are exceeding groundwater contamination. So we will have many more on the list that will be coming up. And so next month's list, I expect to be quite a bit longer. But just so you're aware, these did go live on the MPART website. Kelly, do we have anything after this? Yeah. I think that was the last of our slides. So, and in an attempt to keep things on time, or sort of on time, Sandy?
Yep, I think we did fairly well. All right. Any closing remarks by anybody, or anything we got to do different next time?
So, yes. Oh, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a system I can't put my hand up, but this is Dan. I haven't been able to weigh in a lot tonight because I've been taking care of the kid, but I just want to say this was great meeting. I really strongly support how this is going. You know, I thought Tony's comments, Rick's comments, and then Sandy's summation of everything were right on point. Yeah, I'm really proud of the people that worked on getting us to this point on the scenario. So kudos to everybody that worked on that, and I just really proud of this group and looking for what's next.
All right, thanks, Dan. Anybody else?
Yes, I do. I just have a housekeeping thing. I think I'm listed as a guest.
I think we're all listed as guests.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Then fine. I just wanted to make sure I'm official. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Then I'm good.
Sandy, I can't raise my hand, but just two quick questions for Abby. What was that in Oakland County, that bylaw? What kind of a facility is it?
In Limtall, it was some sort of a coatings manufacturer, but they had a couple of dumpster fires that they used PFAS on.
Oh, okay. And then one last thing, I think for us to be considered professional and legal, or whatever we want to say, I think we should adopt Robert's Rules of Order. So when we get to the point where we want to accept the scenario analysis, that we do a formal motion and that it be recorded as a motion that was either approved or not approved. I think that would give us far more credibility with the government.
Okie dokie. Someone teaches me how to do that, I will be happy to try and do that. Or I'll make that the week that Mary and Rick are in charge. So this week we went by Sandy's rules. But I know what you mean, Connie. I'm just being smart. You're right. We got to do it way formally if we can figure out how to do that. So I think that's a good point. So everybody can vote. Good point. All right. Anybody else? We're only 6 minutes over. All right. Then everybody have a good evening. Thank you. Good meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, you guys. Good job, Sandy.
Bye.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent job.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.